Imagine this. You are sitting on the edge of your bed. You look around the room, and it looks like a bomb went off. Pile of laundry that has been there for a week. There are dishes rotting in the sink. You know you should get up. You know it would take 20 minutes to fix, but you can't move. It feels like there is a heavy, invisible blanket weighing you down. You are screaming at yourself internally. Just get up. Just do it. What is wrong with you? But your body refuses to obey. And as the minutes tick by, that familiar feeling starts to creep in. Shame. Deep, rotting shame. You think, I am lazy, I am disgusting, I am broken, but here is the truth. You are not lazy, and you are not just messy. What you are experiencing is a biological survival state. Your nervous system has detected a threat, and it has pulled the emergency brake. You are not procrastinating. You are in a trauma freeze response. And today, we are going to learn exactly how to unfreeze. The physiology of the freeze, laziness versus survival. We need to start by debunking the biggest lie you've been told, that a messy house is a sign of a character flaw. Society tells us that if we cared enough, we would clean. But if you are a survivor of narcissistic abuse or complex trauma, CPTSD, your brain does not see a pile of laundry as a chore. It sees it as a danger signal. Think about it. Why does cleaning feel physically painful? Why does your heart race when you think about opening that closet? Because for your nervous system, the stakes aren't tidy versus untidy. The stakes are life versus death. When you look at the clutter, your brain gets overwhelmed. And when a trauma brain gets overwhelmed, it doesn't ramp up into fight mode to tackle the mess. It doesn't go into flight mode to run away. It realizes the mess is everywhere, so it shuts down. This is what Dr. Stephen Porges calls the dorsal vagal shutdown. Look at this diagram of the nervous system. At the top, you have the social engagement state, calm, connected, productive. In the middle, you have fight or flight, anxious, mobilized, ready to run. But at the very bottom, you have the freeze. This is your body's most ancient defense mechanism. It's what a gazelle does when it's caught in the jaws of a lion. It goes limp so it doesn't feel the pain of being eaten. When you stare at your messy room and can't move, you are that gazelle. You are going limp to survive the overwhelming feelings of shame and failure. But wait, why would a simple pile of clothes trigger a death response? Why does your brain think a messy kitchen is a lion? To understand that, we have to go back to where the programming started. We have to go back to the narcissist who raised you or the partner who broke you. The narcissistic origin, conditioned perfectionism. If you are watching this channel, you likely know that narcissists demand perfection, but it's deeper than that. In a narcissistic household or relationship, your environment was not a safe haven. It was a minefield. Do you remember what happened when things weren't perfect? Maybe you left a toy out and your parent went into a rage. Maybe you didn't do the dishes correctly and your partner gave you the silent treatment for 3 days. In those moments, the mess wasn't just a mess. It was the trigger for abuse. It was the signal that you were about to be hurt, yelled at, or devalued. This created a conditioned response. Just like Pavlov's dogs learned to salivate at a bell, you learned to panic at a mess. Your brain linked cleaning with danger. So now, years later, even if the narcissist is gone, the link remains. When you try to clean, your body remembers the fear of being criticized. You are subconsciously waiting for the other shoe to drop. You freeze because you are afraid that if you start cleaning, you will do it wrong. And if you do it wrong, you will be annihilated. But there is another layer to this. It's not just the fear of the narcissist out there. It's the voice of the narcissist that is still living in here, inside your head. And it gets loudest when you are trying to help yourself. The inner critic, the shame spiral. Let's go back to that moment on the couch. You are paralyzed. You can't move. What are you saying to yourself? Are you saying, "It's okay, honey, you're tired, take a rest"? No. You are likely saying things like, "You are pathetic. Look at how you live. No one would ever love you if they saw this." That voice, that is not your voice. That is the internalized abuser. It is an echo of the narcissist's devaluation. And here's the tragedy. The more you bully yourself to clean, the more you trigger the freeze response. Shame is a heavy emotion. It physically drains your energy. So you shame yourself to try to get motivated, but the shame drains your battery. So you have even less energy to clean. So you freeze more, which makes you shame yourself more. It is a self-perpetuating cycle. You cannot shame yourself into functioning. You cannot bully a nervous system into safety. Trying to force a freeze survivor to clean by yelling at them is like trying to start a car by smashing the engine with a hammer. It doesn't work. To clean your house, you don't need more discipline. You need safety. So, how do we create safety in a body that is wired for danger? How do we hack the nervous system to turn off the freeze alarm? We are going to use two powerful methods: somatic regulation and low-demand psychology. Let's start with the body. Solution. Phase 1, somatic unfreezing. Most people try to solve the cleaning problem with their mind. They make lists, they set timers, they watch clean with me videos. But remember, this is a biological issue, not a mental one. The freeze is stored in your body, so we have to start there. If you try to stand up and clean while you are still in a dorsal vagal shutdown, you will feel physically ill. You might get dizzy, exhausted, or dissociate. This is your body resisting the override. We need to signal to your vagus nerve that the predator is gone. Here are 3 somatic micro movements to try before you even touch a dirty dish. The physiological sigh. Inhale deeply through your nose. Then inhale a second, shorter sip of air on top of it. Then exhale slowly through your mouth. This double inhale pops open the alveoli in your lungs and offloads carbon dioxide. It is the fastest way to tell your brain we are safe. 2. The shake. Animals in the wild. Shake off adrenaline after a threat. Stand up and literally shake your hands. Shake your legs. Wiggle your spine. It looks silly, but it discharges the trapped freeze energy. 3. Peripheral vision. When we are in trauma mode, we get tunnel vision. We stare at the mess. So, soften your gaze. Look to the far left and the far right of the room. Engaging your peripheral vision activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode. Once you have done these movements, you might feel a tiny spark of energy returning. That is your window of opportunity. Now we apply the psychological strategy, the doom basket method. Solution. Phase 2. Low demand strategy. The biggest mistake trauma survivors make is all or nothing thinking. This is another gift from the narcissist. If I can't clean the whole kitchen perfectly, I shouldn't do it at all. This binary thinking is what keeps you frozen. You look at the room and your brain tries to process 1,000 steps at once. Pick up socks, put in a hamper, then carry the hamper to separate colors, then wash, then dry, and fold. That is too much cognitive load for a brain in survival mode. It crashes the system. We are going to use K.C. Davis's struggle care philosophy. We are going to lower the bar so low that you can roll over it. Technique 1, the doom basket. Don't put things away, just put them not here. Get a laundry basket. Go around the room and put everything that doesn't belong there into the basket. Trash, clothes, mail, dishes. Don't sort it. Don't organize it. Just clear the visual field. Once the floor is clear, your brain will register a safe space. You can deal with the basket later, or tomorrow, or next week. It doesn't matter. Technique 2, functional, not aesthetic. Your house does not need to look like a magazine. It just needs to function. Do you have one clean fork to eat with? Good, you succeeded. Do you have a clear spot to sleep? Good, you succeeded. Release the need for the house to be presentable for an imaginary judge. Make it livable for you. But there is one final piece of the puzzle. The most important part of breaking the cycle of narcissistic abuse and cleaning trauma. It's how you treat yourself after you clean. Reparenting and breaking the loop. When you finally manage to clean something, what is your immediate reaction? Usually it's, well, it's about time. You should have done that 3 days ago. Look, you only did the dishes. The floor is still dirty. This is the trap. If you punish yourself, even when you succeed, your brain learns that effort equals pain. You are reinforcing the trauma loop. You are doing the narcissist's work for them. To heal, we must practice radical self-celebration. I know this sounds cheesy, but biologically, it is essential. When you wash one spoon, stop, take a breath, and say, I am proud of myself for doing that. I was frozen and I moved. That is a victory. You have to flood your brain with dopamine to replace the cortisol. You have to teach your nervous system that completing a task feels good, not scary. So let's go back to that person on the couch. If that is you right now, please listen to me. Your worthiness as a human being is not attached to the cleanliness of your baseboards. You survived a war, emotional, psychological, or physical. It makes sense that you are tired. It makes sense that you are frozen. Be gentle with yourself. Wiggle your fingers. Take a physiological sigh. Pick up one piece of trash, and then give yourself permission to rest without shame. You are safe now. Take care out there.